Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Lucio C. Tan, fellow directors and shareholders, ladies and gentlemen. I am Michael Tan, President and Director of LT Group, Inc. It is now 10:05 in the morning, and the annual stockholders meeting of LT Group, Inc. is hereby called to order.
Before the meeting proper, may we inform everyone that this meeting is being convened via the Zoom webinar app. For the information of all present, this meeting is being recorded in accordance with the requirement of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Let me state for the record the names of the directors of the corporation who are present in this meeting. We have with us today Dr. Lucio Z. Tan, Ms. Carmen K. Tan, Mr. Harry C. Tan, Mr. Michael G. Tan, Mr. Lucio C. Tan III, Ms. Vivian K. Tan, Ms. Juanita T. Tanley, Mr. Johnny G. Kua, Ms. Mary G. Nang, Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez, and Ms. Florencia G. Tariela. The notice for today's meeting was published in the business section of two newspapers of general circulation, the Philippine Daily Inquirer and the Philippine Star, in print and online format for 2 consecutive days, and the last day of publication, June 5, 2020, is at least 25 days prior to the date of this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The next item on the agenda is a certification of the existence of a quorum. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum for today's meeting?
Yes, Mr. President. Based on our tally of those who successfully registered online and the validated proxies and powers of attorney on hand, present and represented by proxy are 9,060,562,340 shares, or at least 83.73% of the 10,821,388,889 total outstanding shares. I therefore certify as to the existence of a quorum for the valid transaction of business at today's meeting.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of the stockholders. Our last meeting was held on May 7, 2019, and I believe the salient matters of that meeting were summarized in the information statement. Madam Corporate Secretary, were the stockholders appraised of this item on the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. Copies of the minutes of the 2019 annual stockholders meeting held on May 7, 2019, prepared in accordance with the revised corporation code, was made available on the company's website on May 7, 2019.
We now inquire with the Corporate Secretary on the tally of votes on this matter.
Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company equivalent to 9,060,562,340 shares approved the minutes of the 2019 annual stockholders meeting held on May 7, 2019.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Based on the report of the Corporate Secretary, the minutes of the 2019 annual stockholders meeting held on May 7, 2019 is hereby approved. Before we move on to the next agenda, let us hear the message from the Chairman.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our outline stockholder meeting today. I'm pleased to tell you that 2019 was our most profitable year since our public listing 7 years ago. But success did not come easy. It was the product of hard work and sacrifice. With COVID-19, this will be very challenging, but I'm counting on your help and support to overcome this sacrifice. But on behalf of our board, directors, management, and staff, thank you very much for your trust and confidence in our company.
The next item on the agenda is the report of management for the fiscal year 2019. For LT Group, 2019 was a banner year. Our attributable net income reached 23.1 billion pesos, 6.9 billion or 43% higher than the 16.2 billion pesos that we reported in 2018. This is the second year that earnings have reached all-time highs and the fifth consecutive year of continuous growth. The tobacco business accounted for 15.5 billion pesos or 67% of total attributable income. Philippine National Bank contributed 5.6 billion pesos or 24%. Eton added 896 million pesos or 4%. Tanduay accounted for 667 million pesos or 3%, while Asia Brewery provided 398 million pesos or 2%. Our stake in Victoria's Milling Company accounted for 251 million pesos or 1%. Our record profits have enabled your company to pay record dividends. Your board declared a regular dividend of 15 centavos per share and a special dividend of 28 centavos per share, or a total of 43 centavos per share for this year. This is 13 centavos per share higher than last year. The total dividend of 4.7 billion pesos is equivalent to a 20% payout. This was paid on June 19. Here is a short video on the operating highlights of 2019. For the first quarter of 2020, LTG reported an attributable net income of 6.2 billion pesos, or 1.8 billion pesos, or 41% higher than the 4.4 billion pesos of first quarter 2019. The tobacco business accounted for 5 billion pesos, or 80% of total attributable income. P&B contributed 761 million pesos, or 12%, followed by Tanduay with 199 million pesos, or 3%. Eton added 168 million pesos, or 3%, while Asia Brewery accounted for 74 million pesos, or 1%. Victoria's Milling Company accounted for 91 million pesos, or 1%. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we have a guarded outlook for 2020. The strong results we had for 2019 gives a strong foundation for our group and will hopefully help us weather this pandemic. Since the government ordered an enhanced community quarantine in Metro Manila and the island of Luzon starting March 17, 2020, followed by other areas around the country, many industries have been disrupted. Many people have lost their livelihood and jobs, while businesses are struggling to keep afloat. Moreover, thousands of OFWs have gone back to the Philippines as their host countries and employers also feel the impact of the pandemic. The government estimates that the economy will contract by 2% in 2020, but some economists expect a higher deceleration of 10 to 20%. With purchasing power affected, demand for consumer goods is expected to be weak and will affect the sales volumes of the products of PMFTC, Tanduay, and Asia Brewery. Eton will also be affected as some tenants may end their lease contracts. PNB will have to grapple with non-performing loans and slower demand for loans. Even as the country is restarted under different permutations of the quarantine thereafter, it will take a while before our economy goes back to the normal or to what it used to be. The key to a faster recovery would be the availability of a vaccine, which we hope will be sooner than later. To conclude, I would like to thank our stakeholders for the continued support and trust in your company. To our board of directors, management team, and employees, thank you for your dedication, commitment, and hard work. Thank you for being with us through good and difficult times. Let us proceed to the next item of the agenda, the approval of the management report as reflected in the annual report, together with the financial statements of the company for the year 2019 and for the period ending March 31, 2020. Madam Corporate Secretary, can you present the proposed resolution for this item and report on the tally of votes for this item in the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. On the screen is the proposed resolution for this matter. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company, equivalent to 9,056,786,940 shares, voted in favor of this matter.
With the stockholders owning a majority of the outstanding shares voting in favor of the matter, the management report, as reflected in the annual report, together with the financial statements for the periods ending December 31, 2019 and March 31, 2020, is hereby noted and approved. The next item on the agenda is the ratification of all the acts, proceedings, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and management of the company from the date of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present, as reflected in the minutes of the meetings of the Board of Directors. May we request the Corporate Secretary to present the proposed resolution for this item?
Mr. President, the proposed resolution for this matter is shown on the screen. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company, equivalent to 9,056,786,940 shares, voted in favor of approving all the legal acts, resolutions, and proceedings of the Board of Directors and corporate officers of the company from the time of the last annual stockholders meeting on May 7, 2019, up to the present.
With stockholders owning a majority of the outstanding shares voting in favor of the matter, the acts, proceedings, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and management from the date of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present, as reflected in the minutes of the Board of Directors, are hereby approved, confirmed, and ratified. The next item on the agenda is the election of directors for the year 2020-2021. May we request the Corporate Secretary to report on the nominees for directors for the year 2020-2021.
Mr. President, I am pleased to report that in a meeting held on February 14, 2020, the Nomination Committee approved the nomination of the following 11 individuals as directors of the company for the year 2020 to 2021. Dr. Lucio C. Tan, Ms. Carmen K. Tan, Mr. Harry C. Tan, Mr. Michael G. Tan, Mr. Lucio C. Tan III, Ms. Vivienne K. Tan, Ms. Juanita T. Tanley, Mr. Johnny G. Kua, Ms. Mary G. Nang, Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez, Ms. Florencia G. Tariela. I would like to further report that nominated as independent directors are Ms. Mary G. Nang, Ms. Florencia G. Tariela, Mr. Johnny G. Kua, and Mr. Wilfredo E. Sanchez.
Can we now hear a report from the Corporate Secretary regarding the votes on this item in the agenda?
Mr. President, after tallying the ballots and the votes of proxies received, and considering further that there are only 11 nominees for the 11 seats in the board, we would like to report that all the nominees are effectively elected as directors of the corporation for the year 2020 to 2021. The proposed resolution regarding this matter is shown on the screen.
I hereby declare that the 11 nominees are duly elected as directors of the company for the year 2020-2021. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of the company's external auditor. May we request the chairman of the Audit and Risk Management Committee, Mr. Johnny G. Kua, to report on the nominated external auditor for the year 2020 to 2021, as approved by our audit committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. A pleasant morning to the stockholders of the company. As provided in the company's manual of corporate governance, the Audit and Risk Management Committee is tasked to select and evaluate the external auditor of the company, which is thereafter endorsed to the board of directors and presented to the stockholders for approval. We are pleased to report that after careful deliberation and after evaluating the performance of the accounting firm of CSIP Gores Velayo and Company, or SGV and Company, for the past year, and considering the quality of its audit work, the size of the firm, its fees being competitive with other firms, and its reputation, we have endorsed to the board its appointment as external auditor of the company for the year 2020 to 2021. The appointment of SGV and Company was approved by the board of directors last April 14, 2020, and is now being presented for ratification of the stockholders.
Thank you, Mr. Kua. May we request the Corporate Secretary to present the proposed resolution for this item and report on the tally of votes?
Mr. President, the proposed resolution on the appointment of SGV and Company as external auditor of the company for the ensuing year is shown on the screen. Based on the total votes received, majority of the outstanding shares of the company equivalent to 9,060,562,340 shares voted in favor of the appointment of CSIP Gores Velayo and Company as external auditor of the company for the year 2020 to 2021.
With the stockholders owning a majority of the outstanding shares voting in favor of the matter, the appointment of CSIP Gores Velayo and Company as external auditor for the company for the year 2020-2021 is hereby approved. We have discussed all the items in our agenda. May we inquire from the Corporate Secretary if there are any other questions received from the stockholders?
Mr. President, we have not received online any questions from the stockholders.
As there are no other matters arising from the agenda, the meeting is hereby adjourned. Have a pleasant day to you all.